Hey nerds, I've got Marc Klockow, who has a coffee table book with all kinds of pictures from the Yang campaign. We're gonna look at them and talk about the story behind some of the picks. But before we do that, let's have Andrew himself warm us up. Hello, nerds.
Hello, nerds. Haven't
Marc.
seen that movie in a minute.
Yeah, it's a classic. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Thank you. Doing all right. How about you, Tom?
I'm good. Haven't done a nerd show in about a week or so, but always fun to get folks from the heyday to talk about, kind of that kind of magical experience, but also, curious. We're going to go into the book in a minute, but tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we should also talk about your take on the Forward Party. But let's start with who's Marc.
Yeah, who is Marc? Well, I was effectively, I guess the story is, I was a real small and new photographer. I moved out of my hometown to Detroit to effectively try to take a real stab at becoming a freelance photographer, because I just wanted to do some type of creative career, but it was really rough, moving down with no portfolio. And long story short here, which is the bulk of, what we're going to talk about here today, is I was a very small photographer. And lo and behold, there was a very small campaign going around. And there was this one guy talking about universal basic income, which I had loved for years. And then I was like, wait, someone's running for president on this? And lo and behold, the overall story is once Andrew's campaign came around to Detroit and we helped organize a rally in early May of 2019, that was like the moment where it's almost like, again, small photographer and a small campaign kind of married each other. Not that I took on any, official role, but it ended up being really the journey of a lifetime. And, that is effectively what helped build me up, build my confidence as a photographer. And, I would say, while I have done things outside of politics, photography wise, a bulk of my content is Yang related. And, that was really just how I actually started, I guess. I don't want to say taking off, because I'm not like some viral photographer or anything. But yeah, like Andrew's campaign and the way they were, his team, like how his team acted and how they really didn't push away any volunteer help. That's, what really got me into the zone of photography. And, since then, since the 2020 run, I mean, gosh, there's been so many things. Past 2.5 years, frankly, have been just absolutely nuts for me. But I will say that the main torch to that rocket ship was the 2020 run.
Yeah. How much access and how much time did you spend on the campaign?
I mean, geez, I started off kind of as like what we called the Metro Detroit Yang Gang. It was super small, like, I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6 people. And this would be in, early to mid 2019. I started off kind of organizing, whether it was just like putting up flyers for that one rally. I did some background organizing around the second debates in Detroit. And sometime between that first rally and the Detroit debates in July 2019, I actually took on the new position for the campaign as a volunteer, a Yang Gang regional organizer.
Mm-hmm.
And at the age of 21, somehow I was like one of two or one of three people that was in charge of like volunteer outreach for the entire Rust Belt, Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. And I was kind of like, while that was a great experience, I was kind of like, I think there might be someone better suited for this instead of some 21-year-old that just wants to help. And then I kind of, took a good long look in a mirror, and I kind of realized, wait a second, there should be someone there with like a DSLR. For those that don't know, just think professional camera.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to really capture the raw growth of what was going on from the movement's perspective, as opposed to, the average campaign photographer, which their shots will be 95% of just the candidate, and that's about it.
Right.
I wanted to kind of capture like a POV of what was happening with the behind the scenes organizing, with the demonstrations outside of the debates, with this and with that. And I kind of just started taking photos, posting them online through my Twitter. And yes, YGRO OG team. That was surreal seeing my name on like the map, like, oh, Marc Klockow, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. I'm like, what? But, once I kind of transitioned from doing organizing work to mostly photography, that's when the gears really started turning. And you asked about access.
Mm-hmm.
And, honestly, from the first rally, I remember chatting with Zach Grauman for the first time. And it was funnily about a small donor graphic that Bernie's team put out.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, Yang was like right on Bernie's tail, but they just erased Yang from the graphic. And I just brought that up with Zach. I was like, can you believe it's like, of all people, Bernie's doing this? And, I feel like that conversation, it just felt natural. It did not feel forced. It didn't feel hierarchical.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of put it in the back, put this idea in the back of my mind, like, wait, maybe Andrew's team they're not like a bunch of, political seasoned veterans, maybe it's just frankly, a scrappy team of like first timers, but they're just trying to get this guy with the message of UBI onto the national stage. And, starting off, it was pretty standard for the first, few months in terms of like access, because I'd only seen Andrew in person like once or twice at that point. But as the debates kept rolling on, I didn't go to the third debate in Texas, but fourth debate in Ohio, fifth debate in Atlanta, sixth debate in LA. There's like a rally in Chicago.
You went to all of those?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
That was my thing, because it was like, think of it this way, you've got it started off with just maybe a few people from, say, for the second debates outside of Detroit coming on in. And then for Ohio, it was like 10 or 12 people that I knew from across the country. Then it was 20 people from across the country. And that's not even including the local base that was already there in each respective city.
Right.
So I was just kind of like, I got to capture this growth. I mean, this is nuts, and obviously we weren't getting the best treatment from the establishment media. So I honestly like felt like having just any type of like movement documentation was like a kryptonite to the media blackout that was going on. And, through each debate and with each subsequent debate, I could kind of almost feel like not only Andrew, but like Zach and, whoever was on the team, like the advanced team. And then you got like Carly and you got like everyone there. And we just all started, I think probably around the fifth debate in Atlanta, that was when what do you call it? We just kind of like started like seeing each other from across the room. And it's like, oh, I feel like the team almost thought in their heads like, oh, that's Mark. Yeah, Mark with the photos. And I would say probably by about December 2019, I felt quite confident with my ability to just chat with the team, and just kind of, I don't want to say bro down. That's probably not the best like phrasing, but it was just like they didn't treat me as some like, there's this kid that takes photos. Who cares about them? It's like, no, they actually recognized, the work I was putting in, the time I was taking off from my own things. And I was really just kind of like strapping myself to this rocket ship that was this longer than long shot campaign.
How many pictures do you think you took?
There's a lot.
Like thousands?
I'd say from the 2020 run alone, at least 10,000.
Wow.
And that's like finalized photos. We're not talking about like that.
Right.
Shots that are like blurry, out of focus, or not composed.
Wow.
Well.
Okay.
And then I had to take that and narrow it down to 160 pages in a coffee table photo book. So I was like, I've got to pick my favorites of the favorites. And it was definitely a lot of experience. And like I said earlier, it's just that helped me really blossom and grow initially as a photographer.
Yeah. Well, that's a good segue, because I think we're going to share your screen and you're going to walk us through some of your favorites. And let me just add that right now.
Okay. No screenshots, everybody. I'm kidding. The quality is much better in person. But frankly speaking, how do you take, say, 10,000 photos, and how do you boil that down to 160 pages?
Yeah.
So the first thing I thought in my mind was, okay, boom, chronological. We can get that part. So for example, you open up the book, and just to kind of show you guys a little cross-reference here, this is, for example, let's see here. This is like what the book would look like.
Right.
You see it's the first page. That's why it's a square. But I tried to section it off into a very chronological order. So here you've got the next page. It's obviously 2 pages open on you. And these were literally my first ever shots of Andrew Yang in Detroit. I love the black and white one. You can really just kind of, you can just kind of like feel like Andrew's energy. At that point, it was, what would you call it? The podcasts, what was it? Joe Rogan and some of the other ones. That's when like that finally started to take effect.
Right.
And right here, Tom, like I was a very small photographer. I mean, I was super proud of these shots, when I took them. Now I'm kind of like, they're there, but the whole point of this is this whole book is sectioned off, and I do write a couple paragraphs here at the end of each chapter to kind of like put a little pin on, this is what was going on in my life. This is what the campaign, or what was going on in the campaign. And let's balance those two and kind of take you, the reader, along for a story of my involvement. And heck, you got the Detroit debates here. And then really, I think things started to...
Can we go back to the one where it's sort of like a side view of him on the stairs?
Oh, sure. This one?
Yeah. That has this vibe of like, wow, this is like a great social movement. That the black and white one in particular. Yeah. What did it feel like to be there? Like, what was the energy like on the ground?
For this specific first rally? Oh my gosh. I had spent, well, the whole story behind that is, like I said, the Metro Detroit Yang Gang was absolutely tiny. No one really even knew like what it actually kind of meant to be Yang Gang. Like, is this whole Yang Gang thing a fluke? Is it not going to be called the Yang Gang? Is that even going to stick? So what ended up happening was 2 weeks out of May 4th, 2019, so late April, we got actually hit up by the team, and they were like, hey, we have a canceled date or whatever, like, and we're going to be around in, the Midwest area. We want to have something in Detroit. So, and we want to have this event literally 2 weeks from today. And all of us were like, okay. And so effectively speaking, they sent us like a link to like a Google Drive where it was like, here are some PDFs that are like preset for location, time, and graphics. Just print these off as much as you can. Doesn't matter, black and white or color. And I was like, I was try-harding. So I was just like, let's get it in color. Let's get like 300 pages of this, And I remember for those, well, actually, before I even get to the flyering portion, myself and Paul at the time, who I believe founded the group on Facebook, we pretty much, he lived about 20, 30 minutes out of Detroit. I was living in Detroit. So he hit me up and he was like, hey, we need to find a venue that can hold at least 300 people. And and we literally like drove around. I gave him like 5 spots, and then there was like some other spots we drove by, and we were like, that looks all right. And eventually here we landed on Detroit Shipping Company. And it's actually a really cool like vibe there. Like the entire kind of place is like built out of these shipping containers.
Wow, yeah.
It was really a sick spot. Yeah. And again, the campaign was like 2 weeks, lock a place down for us, advertise the living hell out of it, and try to get at least 300 people. And I spent those 2 weeks after we had secured the place flyering every single wooden post I could find in Detroit. I seriously, I was like, okay, main streets, side streets, there's a lot of pedestrian, walkway here, there. And I just flyered. Some other people flyered too, but I just remember I bought like, staple gun. I was like running out of staples. It was just like, oh my gosh. And then the date came and I was like, please give us 300. Please. Turns out the official count was somewhere between 550 and 600. So yes, major success.
Not
we got
shabby.
the nobody, the nobody candidate at the time. Turned out a lot of people. And, this was before any of the debates.
Yeah.
And I was super pumped. Andrew did a little podcast in this little side podcast room at this venue. He walked around the second floor, and then right there on the left, you can see Andrew just making his entrance, all energized, excited, had his little security detail at the time, which was, it changed event to event, Right. And
the dude in the black blazer and the sunglasses part, he looks pretty like he's very vigilant. Yes.
Yeah, I saw him like posted out of like the podcast area, like just like, we gotta lock this place down, keep it secure. Next president of the United States is in this room. And I was like, ooh, okay. I'm gonna keep my eye on him because that's where Andrew's eventually gonna be.
Right. That's a good way to find the principal. All right, well, take us to some other picks.
So first event went super well. Then
congratulations, by the way. I'm sure that was super stressful.
It was, but we got it done. We got a bit of flyering here for the second debate. Granted, it's not the best thing to have a math sign on a trash can, but hey, it was in front of the Fox Theater. So, I was just kind of like, I'm going to take a photo of that. Nowadays, I know not to compose with trash cans in campaign literature.
Well, at least it's not underneath the stop sign.
Right. And here, this was a day of, and it was, I'll tell you what, it was like a bloodbath. I mean, other campaigns, they were, especially the establishment campaigns, like, Biden and such. You can even see in the very top left image, there was all this Biden signage. And we were like, how did you guys get over there? And
Mm.
this, like, really, I remember a really snarky Biden volunteer or staffer, I don't know. They were
Mm.
like, you should have gotten here at 6 a.m. And we're like,
Mm.
what? No one gets up that early in Detroit. Like, but you know, it was a bunch of flyering. We didn't have a lot of people, but in the top right got Reverend Wendy Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Fred the
got Fred,
Felon.
obviously,
Yeah.
right there. Got Boyce, Mindful Skeptics, in the bottom left.
Nice.
And, you know, that was, you know, the flyering operation. And then next up, it was just a quick story about what I just talked about, the regional organizer role, and a really scrappy campaign watch party at a really nice bar in Detroit, Temple Bar. And that was like, I didn't take that many photos because I was more so busy organizing. And that's where I kind of transitioned this book from that point over to the next debate. And I would say probably starting at the fourth Democratic debates in Ohio, that's when I really wanted to just take photos. And it probably started with that idea, this dude with like this custom Yang 2020 shirt, break dancing with a giant $1,000 bill.
Yeah, that's a great one.
There was like a rally. Fred shoved a lot of people in his newly wrapped freedom dividend, you know, Truckers for Yang truck. There was a massive march heading downtown to demonstrate. Fred just was driving his truck up and down.
I mean, cruising in his truck. I love it.
Yeah, just pulling the horn. And like, we were like, look, the faces of especially like the Trump supporters across the street, they were just like, who's this Yang guy and how does he have a truck? Yeah. You know, and it looked like it was probably one of the best looking trucks there.
Yeah, their heads must have exploded because they probably associate truck driving with more of a kind of MAGA demographic, and it's kind of cool to see Andrew Yang's name on a 18-wheeler or whatever. Yeah.
And I mean, I think that just kind of like sums up the energy. This whole fourth debate was like, I swear, Tom, like it really did feel like, it might have been that way. We were probably one of the best represented campaigns on the ground in terms of just raw people coming out with all these giant $1,000 bills with Andrew's face on it. You know, everyone was just ecstatic, like, oh my God, we qualified for another debate. And that's like what this book really is about. Is it's a collage of my favorite just snaps of the joy, of the humanity, of just the fun we were having while we were doing all this work. And, you know, I just kept taking photos and photos and photos. And it even got to the point, and I tell a little story here, where I told Zach at this little fundraiser the day after the debate, I was like, hey, did you see the truck? And Zach was like, oh, like, because there were two trucks. There was like a digital billboard truck, and then there was the massive, you know, semi. And Zach thought I was talking about the digital billboard. And it's kind of funny.
No.
Yeah, no. It's actually outside, Zach. And then towards the end there, you know, team walked out, and you know, Andrew was just like, oh my gosh, you know, it's real. And I think at that moment, it was kind of like, even in Andrew's head, it was like, whoa, this campaign is like gaining some insane traction.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I know we have lots of other pictures, which we're going to get to in a second. Before we do that, I want to take a brief moment to thank some of the people who make this channel possible. You know, a lot of people don't realize that, or maybe they do, that the Yang Gang content kind of effort is a little bit sort of diminished from the heyday. But folks like the Nerds for Humanity channel members help keep this content going. So appreciate everybody doing that. And let me just give a shout out to some of them. Give me 1 second. Okay, so at the highest level, we have Soldier One, who is a senior vice president level of support that helps pay for our hosting fees and streaming software, that kind of thing. At the VP level, we have Kristen Slevin, Laura Lane, and Bike. Thank you so much. And then at the hardcore level, we have Mike, Gene, David, DK, Jackalego, Kirsch, Mr. History, Byram, Mona, Susan, Yang, Tony, Robert, Dean, Stat Nerd, Galessa, J Perrin, AH, J Brian, Vivian, Dana, Yoda, Jason, and Parth. And then finally at the verified level, and anybody can become a member, just click on the join button on YouTube. Lisa, Sugar, Albert, Brandon, Peter, Arez, Brian, your mom and Sophia, Jadwiga, Mike, Doris, Emerald, Lori, Ben, Roger, Lisa, Vaughn, Rasta, Elizabeth, James, Emma, Hui, Ira, Shoni, Philip, Jameson, Doctor, William, Karen, Monica, Ardent, Semery, Mai, David, Brittany, Juana, Warren, Lucky, Kevin, Vinny, and H3. So thanks to everybody that's supporting. And one last thing I'll share is we do have a pro UBI candidate contest going on ofthepeople.us. And if you go there, we're going to give the top 3 universal basic income candidates who have elected to list themselves on OTP, which is free, $100 each at 9 p.m. today. So go ahead to ofthepeople.us, and if you see any candidates that you think are interesting, that you want to kind of give your voice of support to, you can just click on their profile and then you click on the approve button, and that'll register your approval vote for them. Right now, our top UBI candidates on ofthepeople.us are Christy Seelock, Josh Whale, Ali Dalzimer, Shervin Azami, and Ryan Stark. There's tons more, but those are just some that I'll list. And yeah, check out ofthepeople.us. So, one other thing I'll share is we just added a new feature last night on OTP. So now you can sort by UBI, but you can even enter your zip code like 94061, and then it will sort the pro, and then click on UBI. It'll sort the pro UBI candidates by distance from the zip code that you entered. So if you want to see who are the top candidates near you, and in my case, it will be Shervin, Austin, and Dr. Ryan, who are pro UBI and near my zip code. So thanks everybody for supporting Nerds for Humanity and OTP. Now back to Mark's story.
Dang, that was professional.
Yeah, we've done it a few times now.
I love it. I love it. So, I mean, yeah, not to necessarily spoil the whole book here, but this whole journey as a photographer, it just kept growing. I mean, you had the few people in Detroit, and then check out Atlanta. You know, it just was growing and growing and growing. And I feel like that's kind of when a lot of my shots, they started to feel a little more professional. They weren't maybe all the way there. I mean, now I look back and I'm like, oh, why did I do the white balance like this or this or that? But, you know, we got Kai over there. Everyone from 2020 knows who Kai is. Got Chef Zoot there on the right in the middle. Did the Yang Gang Trickle Up video, song and video. And, you know, it was just awesome because, and of course, we got Fred and Sola here. Oh, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Should be able to get all Christmas orders fulfilled like prior to Christmas here. I think you just got to like order by a certain date. I've got another 20 copies coming in the mail, so
cool. Now, Mark, you said pre-order. What's the difference between pre-order and order?
So It's kind of weird considering this is my first book.
Yeah.
I used this one site called Blurb,
Uh-huh.
and they have a great tool to assemble the book and all of that. But the kicker is they give volume discounts for printing. So on my end, I get say X amount of orders. My goal is to order
Accumulate.
the books in orders of bulks of 20, because that's where I get the biggest discount.
Right.
And that's partially why it was pre-order. I also just haven't changed it from when I launched the book.
No
but
worries.
I do try, once you hit order, I will try to get your book to you within 2 to 3 weeks. So far, I would say my average is actually under that. But I definitely do want to get prepped for the holidays here.
Yeah.
So order ASAP to guarantee yourself a copy before, the holidays. And right now the link says pre-order, but that just pretty much means you're ordering it. I get a notification on my end, and then I tally up, okay, we've got X amount of orders. I've got this many books in inventory. And as soon as I have a book in inventory and an order paid and placed, that goes out like the very next day, if not the day of.
And how did you come up with the name Fear and Loathing?
So that's a funny little quirky story. So for one, I was what do you call it? A fan of Hunter S. Thompson as I was moving out to Detroit. And he's got his infamous book, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which, adult content warning. It's a very drug-infused flurry of a book. It's nuts. But he actually then later wrote a book called Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 72. And that was like during, I believe, when he was running for, I want to say mayor or something. But the point is that it really highlighted the madness of the machine, the madness of what it's like for pretty much being a candidate that the machine or the establishment doesn't want in the system, and what it's like on the end of like running a campaign like that. And then I kind of was just asking one of my group chats on Twitter, like, hey, what do you guys think is like a good name for the book? I can't use forward. I can't use Zach's book title, which I also really liked. So I was
Has he announced what his title's going to be, or is that still?
I'm not sure if he's announced the title. For now, I'm not going to mention it.
All right, but it's a cool title.
Yeah. Oh, I love the title, and look out for the photo on the cover of it. Wink, wink.
Get some royalties on that one.
A little bit. But Zach was really good about contacting me about that. Boy. Oh crap! Where was I actually?
Fear and Loathing, the title. How you picked the title. You were on the chat.
So I was just asking this group chat, and someone just mentioned Fear and Loathing, and I was like, Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, and I'm like, wait, you know what? Let's just do it, because frankly speaking, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows with the 2020 run. There were. There were problematic people that did pop up here and there. There were issues that, let's just say, maybe the campaign they weren't hearing about or seeing. And even in certain points of this book, I mentioned kind of taking on a volunteer HR department, I guess. I even joked it's like the volunteer masochist department, because like we're just dealing with like the loudest of the loudest problems that we could see from the volunteer end. And the book really was like I wrote about in the section when it comes over to Chicago about I needed to say expedite an issue to Zach and Andrew, because for whatever reason, they didn't hear about this issue. And I was personally worried. And, Tom, I know the establishment news media, once they hear about like, oh, there's a problem in XYZ campaign,
right? Yeah.
Let's write about it. I mean,
Mhm.
I think it was
That's
like,
catnip.
yep.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
remember, what was it, Kamala Harris? There was actually an article that came out saying, uh, "Oh my gosh, their staffers are in shambles." And lo and
Right.
behold, I think it was like a week, not even a week, and then boom, she's out of the race. And I was like, "Oh my god, they're that powerful." The media and all that. I was like trying to help wherever I could. So fear and loathing. Well, there was a lot of fear because we feared Andrew not, making the debates or getting the media blackout treatment once again. Um, and then the loathing, I mean, I just figured pair fear and loathing because politics in and of itself, this was my first big ride in politics. I did some work volunteering for Bernie in 2016. But that was just a bit of phone banking. And I remember like one of my first calls, like I got called a communist because I guess someone just thought that Bernie was a communist. And at the time, I didn't even really know what communism was. So I was just like, okay, have a nice day.
Right.
And like, I was just like, okay, I'm not going to do this phone banking thing. And also, I was 18 at the time. So yeah. But this time with Andrew's run, it was like I felt a lot closer. I felt a lot more welcomed in. And that was really like the whole story that I'm trying to
Yeah.
tell in this book is that this wasn't some pick me sort of situation. It was, we had a bunch of people that were frankly just trying to help. I mean, I'm sure you remember all the volunteer media channels and live
Mhm.
streams.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, for obvious, ones like Matt Skidmore, like
Mhm.
literally just a kid that came around, started live streaming, and it was pretty quality,
Yeah.
upgraded the audio equipment over time. And lo and behold, actually, to fast forward to the New York race, Eric Adams' campaign went after Matt. It
Right.
was like
Yeah.
that's the power of volunteer media right there, folks.
Right.
And but this whole story is like Andrew and his team didn't treat me like some, just kid with a camera. They were like, no, that's Mark, and Mark helps.
Mhm.
And they treated, I would say, a majority of the people that really stuck their neck out, that, they wanted to make sure that they were heard and felt. Um, so, I would say probably by the, this would be the Atlanta debates, but somewhere between the Atlanta debates and the LA debates,
Mhm.
that was the moment that I was kind of like, actually, I feel really welcomed by this team. And, we
Mm.
had New Year's with Andrew in New Hampshire, which was a 13-hour drive from Detroit to
Yeah.
New Hampshire. That was nuts. And then, of course, the entirety of Iowa. And by the time we got over to Iowa, it was effectively like I was just hightailing it, on these like rural Iowan roads, following the campaign car. Because like
Mhm.
we were kind of like, okay, just follow the car so we don't get lost. We know where we're going. And, they were cool with it, you
Yeah.
know.
Follow the campaign car. I love it. Follow the
And then,
security guy.
yeah, yeah. It was a pretty small team, so it worked out, and they started. I think they started recognizing, I'm like, oh, that's Matt's car. Oh, that's Mark's car. Oh, that's Heidi's car,
Mhm.
and they knew, okay, that's cool. Uh, and even like it even happened a few times in the New York race. Like, remember, like Matt and I were driving to an event, and the team was right behind us at a
Mm.
light, and I just remember like rolling down the passenger side window and like sticking my head out, and then like Andrew from the back seat sticks his head out. It's like we were just kind of like almost just playing like car tag. So that was like a tradition that really started in Iowa and continued since then. But yeah, this whole book, it was just about growth. I mean, again, those first Detroit shots I showed you.
Mhm.
Well, look at,
Wow.
4 months later in
Yeah.
Chicago. It
That's a
just
great shot.
that's what I wanted to
Yeah.
show. I wanted to demonstrate, hey guys, this is a capsule of everything I was really seeing from my end. And heck, even you got Andrew entering here, Andrew on the stage, and Zach right there kind of watching from the sidelines. I thought that was like
Right.
a nice little moment. And that's what I was just trying to do. I was trying to, of course, I did take shots of Andrew. And by this point, I felt like, oh my gosh, my shots feel like more powerful now for whatever reason. And I was becoming more and more proud of myself. I really just wanted to keep demonstrating this guy has good ideas. This guy has potential. And oh, you're there? Chicago? Maybe. But yeah, and I wrote about, the volunteer HR department here at the end of that trip.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're off to LA, and lo and behold, we're doing collabs with Donald Glover. Oh my gosh, Childish Gambino is helping the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
We even followed him on the right side out to his car there. But I didn't want to make it seem too weird, so I took a few snaps and called it there. But we had stilt walkers for Andrew. It got to the point where it was just like there was more and more and more. We did these like little like visibility events just completely spontaneously. I remember a quick little story about this pizza there that Boyce is handing out.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Skidmore started live streaming our little like honk for Andrew event or honk for Yang. And his chat on Twitch or YouTube or wherever it was, someone asked for like the address of like where we were standing outside of. And they sent us 30 full-sized pizzas.
Whoa.
And we were like, okay, we cannot eat all of this, obviously. We only had about like 10, 15 of us. So what we started doing, take a card and get a slice of pizza to all the stop cars at the stoplight. So that's the context of that bottom right image there. And it's just like so many little stories like that. Little moments that I'm so happy, we're there.
Mark, did you manage to capture any shots where there was some of the fear, loathing, or frustration? A lot of these shots are very powerful, kind of positive, which is great. I know that campaigns aren't always, all good news.
To answer your question, right side of the screen here. And the caption reads, if you can't read that, at a town hall in Dubuque, Iowa, Andrew breaks down, reflecting on the world his two boys are being left. That was late game Iowa. As you can see, it's like the 30th of January. And in most cases, you like for normal campaigns, quote unquote, you don't have these shots get out there because, that's weakness. And I was like, screw that. That's humanity. That's vulnerability. That's honesty. And those shots, like even I was kind of almost like tearing up because like everyone was tired by that point in late game Iowa. And, Andrew kind of reflected that in that moment. And it's just, I wanted to capture everything. I wasn't like only happy and powerful shots, though that does make up a majority. I do like sneaking in little moments here where it's just like, hey, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. There were not only hiccups, but there were issues. And, for a first time politician, Andrew was the head of that, and he was feeling the weight of that. And through all of these, stops, it was like, I'm telling you, 5, 6 events a day in Iowa, and doing that for 30, 32, 33 days straight, that will absolutely wreck anyone's body, anyone's voice. Even Andrew got really ill at one point in the last stretch of Iowa, to the point where the team was, I remember like Eric and a few others from the team were telling me Andrew was so ill doing 5 events a day, he'd get on the campaign bus and literally, yeah, everyone would take their jackets, throw it on Andrew so he could sweat out whatever bug he had. And then it's like, okay, hey, Andrew, get up, have a water. You know, it's time for
showtime.
Event number 2 out of 5 for the day. And I think by this point on the right, he was feeling a bit better. His voice was less raspy. He seemed to be a bit more perky. But it's like, those are human moments.
Yeah.
I did not want to just be like, it was all perfect and great and this and that. But of course, come on, we do have the happy moments here. Like giving Andrew a birthday cake on his birthday. You know, again, I'm not trying to show every shot, but I got to show this collage. There are photos literally from May 4th, 2019, starting in Detroit, where I'm based. Every debate except for debate 1 and 3, which I wasn't present for. Every debate, campaign stop in Chicago, New Year's in New Hampshire, all of Iowa, and all of New Hampshire that I was present for. To answer your question in chat. I did not. I was not in that. I wish I was, but I was there on suspension night, and we do have photos of that at the end of the book here.
Oh, suspension night.
Yeah. But hey, about 2 weeks before suspension night, those rallies had grown to about 13, 14, 1,500 in Iowa.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you pull that many people in Iowa? You know, it's like, I actually even remember a little nugget about this event here. For our final Iowa rally, Bernie Sanders actually had an event at the exact same venue earlier in the day. And Bernie, I remember I heard he pulled somewhere between like 600 and 800 people. And we pulled capacity plus a 300 to 400 person overflow, like totaling out to like 13 or 1,400 people. And I was just looking around. I'm like, wait, we pulled out more people than Bernie at the same event in the same day? Like, whoa, we're going to win the whole thing.
And, do you think the people that showed up for these events eventually went and caucused, or what happened?
I think a decent amount of them did. I am not going to say everyone did, because the results didn't necessarily reflect that. But I do remember I was actually, as I was putting together these final pages of the book, I was bringing up Matt's live streams from these events, and like kind of almost just like teleporting myself back into what it was like there. And oh my gosh, I mean, it's like you're entering a portal. And I remember Matt would, and you know, some of the people helping run his channel would go around and pretty much ask like, hey, do you plan to caucus? And there were a lot of answers. I was like, yeah, first time caucus, first time. Nope, looks like my camera died out there for a second. It's an old webcam, so let me boot that back up. Hello, there we go.
You're back.
But I think a lot of people at least tried to do the caucus or going to caucus for the first time. But the thing is that the way that those caucuses were ran, even ask the Bernie people, they hated it too. Everyone pretty much hated it. It was an absolute mess. I could not describe. I mean, without profanities, like like it was bad. I remember actually I heard a story, and I'm not trying to reflame the Bernie versus Yang war here, because I really do like Bernie. I remember someone, while I was in New York, was telling me that they were a precinct captain in Iowa for the caucus night. And apparently there was a moment where it was effectively like Pete, Bernie, and Yang were like the big three in like one district.
Mhm.
And there was a moment where it was like, yo, if we just get one person from the Yang perspective, one person from the Bernie side to come over, then it is Bernie one delegate or whatever, and Yang one delegate. Otherwise, it would be Pete two delegates, however that worked, and then Yang 0 and Bernie 0. And it was so it was so tense there. My friend that was precinct captain for Yang out there told me a story about, actually there was this one parent that was on the Bernie side of the caucus, because that's, you know, how it works. You stand in one area of the room, and they were like, oh yeah, okay, no, Bernie won, Yang won, that sounds like a good deal, you know, let's get these delegates. And actually the surprising part of the story was, as this parent that was on the Bernie side was trying to come over to the Yang side, some of the younger Bernie people locked arms and formed a human wall so that person couldn't leave the Bernie side. And then the delegates went to Pete, and it's like, guys, you know, like, hello? Yeah. So like when I heard that story, I was just like, what a mess, you know? And that's, again, it's not like I'm saying the Bernie people were all like this or anything, but you know, these races get really tense. Yeah. And, you know, I remember, you know, being in like New Hampshire and getting some, here, I'll maybe scroll another photo. I want to stick on just one. I love Andrew's expression there on the far right. It's just like, holy crap, this is a lot of people. Yeah. But I remember in New Hampshire, I was actually on suspension day. We were at this college and we were tabling, and there was Warren people there. There were Pete people there. There were Bernie people there. And I remember some of the other campaigns are kind of being like really snotty or snobbish to us. Just in their tone, they didn't want to talk with us. They didn't want to, like, you know what I mean? And but then we got word that Andrew was coming actually himself to the college where everyone was tabling. And the second that Andrew arrived, everyone else's tone, like the people that were being snobbish, their tone flipped immediately. It was like, oh wait, can I say hi? Is it cool? Can I say hi? And it's like, yeah, of course, dude. Like, Andrew talks to people. It's like, but yeah, this whole thing, Tom, it was a hell of a journey. I mean, we got the caucus result night here, and by this point, you know, it's less about even, oh my gosh, look at how far my photos have come. It was like, I felt like I was just taking stills like on a movie set, you know? And it just got to the point where it was just like, there was so much going on. Every day it felt like a blur. And don't even get me started on the New York run. I mean, that was that was nuts too. But the presidential run was probably one of those runs where I just felt like it was one giant family of people. And I even wrapped this up in the end of my book and the afterword. How can you get a candidate that starts as an absolute nobody, and you literally unite from people that are apolitical and independent, and you bring them together and all that, and then you're bringing together even socialists and conservatives. I mean, that was the makeup of the campaign. It wasn't just one type of person that supported Andrew, despite the narratives. It was genuinely a massive coalition. And I'm like, how the heck are these two getting along? How are these two in the same room? But it's because, look, not only did everyone want $1,000 a month, but, you know, RCV, democracy dollars, eliminate the penny. The penny makes no sense. That's probably still like one of my favorite policy titles ever. It was clever. It was a real, just out of this world campaign. And I'm just happy to have been there. Yeah. And to have just captured, you know, what I was seeing.
Did you say you covered the New York mayoral campaign as well?
So you were asking about access,
Hmm.
and that's when my access like just exploded in terms of like, okay, I can't believe I have this level of access. Because when I got out there to New York, I took 4 trips to New York. It was a 3-day trip, 7-day trip, 2-week trip, and a 3-week trip. Because it just grew and grew, and I guess they just needed me out there. But first trip, one of the staffers got COVID. Events were shut down. This was early in the race. Whatever. Second trip, I get out there, and it's like right before my birthday. And I remember I just went with Matt, because Matt and I, we knew each other so well. We just ride along everywhere. And I remember just being there, walking around with the team, and I saw Eli, who was running the digital end and media end of the campaign. It was pretty much just 2 people, Eli and John. And I was out there with my camera, and they're like, "So wait, like, what you doing out here, Mark?" And I was like, I mean, you saw what I did during 2020. Let's do it again. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, wait, yes, like we will give you everything in terms of like Andrew's schedule, this and that, everywhere he's going to be, where we're especially going to need you, the events where we're going to need to put a press release immediately, so we need this or that shot quickly." And just like that, it was like, I kind of had even some of the senior staffers, they kind of donned or joked that I was like, I'm pseudo staff, I'm pseudo senior staff, like I'm unpaid, I'm still volunteer based, but like I've got the invisible credentials. And throughout that New York run, yeah, it was incredibly nuts in terms of the photos and images I was taking, how many I took, and like, for example, like the firefighters endorsement in New York, it was like, that was like that one event where I was like, I need to get this photo perfected, send it off to, this or that person that's running the press releases for the team. And then, I take the photo, and within 10 minutes, there's a press release going out for immediate release. And it's like, boom, there's my photo on the official campaign's, press releases. And I'm like, whoa. I was like, like texting the team, like, hey, here are some photos for social media from this and that event. So access wise, well, I did have a lot of access in this run and the 2020 run. The New York run was like, whoa, like access squared.
Yeah.
And,
when's that book coming out?
Oh gosh. Well, it depends on demand. I think I'm going to be making a Detroit. Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. I love how I recognize like half the people here in the comments, whether it's Twitter or met them in person. Yeah, no, but this whole run, I made this book. It took me about 3 or 4 months to really put this book together, make sure it's polished and finalized. My next book is probably going to be what I did after this run, which was, COVID hit. And then a few months later, the BLM protests in response to George Floyd really became the big thing. And that was my entire summer in Detroit of 2020. So I'll probably be making a Detroit-based like BLM photo book. And after that, then if people are interested, I know a New York book would be fun. Like, and as much as I want to, share, hey, look at all these photos from New York, and I've got some real funny ones. But that's down the line. And
You'll
if there
save
is
that
demand
for a future visit to the Nerd Zone.
Yeah. Geez, I already see we're already at like 59 minutes. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, it's been great having you on, Mark. Were there any other photos that we didn't get to take a look at that you wanted to share before we wrap up?
I'll give one last little teaser. I'm not trying to close it out on a sad note, but yeah, right here on the right panel, Steve is hyping up the crowd. This is the final day of Yang 2020.
Yeah.
And then on the other end of the room, there's Andrew knowing what he's about to announce.
You think, did Steve know at that point, or?
Dude, I have no idea. I feel like half the freaking staff didn't know.
Effing A, man.
Right? Even
should not have suspended. I love Andrew, but I don't agree with that decision at all. Yeah.
I'm like a 50-50. I'm kind of like, throw it at the next 2 states and then pull the plug, you know? Because I really did want to make it out to Nevada. Like, that was something I was really looking forward to.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. South Carolina could have been interesting. We'll never know.
Yep. It remains a mystery.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, Mark, you have been very gracious with your time and sharing some of your favorite photos and the backstories. I put a link to purchasing the book in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, and I put it in the chat a couple times as well. So go ahead and pre-order it in time for the winter holidays. And who knows, man? 10, 15 years from now, that'll be a collector's edition. Are you signing any of them, Mark?
Based on request. Just
all right.
shoot me a DM. Let me know what your order number is, and I'll try to do that. I'm trying to add a note to each order, sign this one. Nice.
Yeah. Who knows? But man, you might be the next great photojournalist, and it'll be worth a lot of money someday.
Oh, very kind of you. Thank you, Tom. Let's hope. Let's hope.
Yeah, anything's possible, and it's great shots. And look forward to also seeing. We should have you on when you have your BLM kind of. That's a moment in history as well. So
would be great and there's a lot to talk about there. Oh boy, what a summer.
yeah. I bet there's a lot of emotional energy in those pictures. So well, thank you so much for coming on. If you're watching this live or replay and you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to like and share so more people can hear about this journey that Mark recorded and participated in. And with that, we're going to say goodbye, nerds.
Goodbye, nerds, and thank you.
Peace out.